A chicken in Illinois has a mysterious virus that people don't know about. The employees, so it is still used to make nuggets. The contaminated food is delivered to a nearby elementary school, and Shelley quickly eats. Clint, an aspirant author, has left in the meantime. New York before returning to Illinois, where he was born. He's been really buckling down on a novel. However, when he shows it to his mother, she doesn't like it. After that, Clint attends his previous elementary school, where he has accepted employment as a substitute teacher. Rick, the guard, believes Clint is his dealer. In any case, allows him to pass when he affirms his character. Then, at that point, Clint leaves his vehicle, just for exercise center educator Wade to position his enormous vehicle next to him, encircling him without thinking. Clint needs to scale the back seat and exits through the trunk after noticing that someone had written rude things on his window. He notices as he enters that there are a lot of irrational students at this school. What's more, swear a ton. Clint meets with VP Sims, who causes him to sit on a ball and takes Clint's phone, which explains that the no-phone policy applies to students and teachers alike. Clint is next, stops at the teacher's lounge, where he observes that every other educator is strange and awkward, so he experiences difficulty speaking with them. Fortunately, he tracks down Lucy, a lifelong companion who likewise turned into an educator. They start chatting and laughing as soon as they see each other again, which makes Wade envious because he has a girlfriend named Lucy. When Clint reveals his novel to them is about a man who buys a boat that has been stolen, and Wade says right away that it sounds like a scam, that of Stephen King. At that point, every educator goes to their relating study halls. For Clint, Nationalist and Dink are ridiculing Shelley since her face has a lot of rankles, the result of the nuggets. She doesn't respond. She simply looks forward, looking wiped out. Clint conveys everyone returns to their seats and writes his name on the board, only for Patriot to begin making fun of them. When Clint tries to take his phone, Patriot also reveals that he still has it, and he threatens Clint to blame Clint for doing mischievous things to him. Understanding that Loyalist was the person who composed on Clint decides to ignore Calvin for the time being and has Calvin read his novel draft to the class from his car. Patriot returns to making fun of Shelley while everyone else is distracted. But when he grabs her pigtail, which he removes with some skin, Shelley, furious, jumps on Patriot and bites him. Clint needs to get closer in order to end the fight. Shelley promptly scratches him and runs away, and Clint takes Patriot to the office of the nurse. In the meantime outside, Rick at long last gets in. He makes contact with his dealer and eats some mushrooms while hiding in his van. Afterwards, during recess, Lucy laughs as Clint tells her what happened, which makes Wade even more envious. The Dink approaches Shelley on the playground to slam her for hurting Patriot, but Shelley responds by assault him as well. Before long, Nationalist beginnings changing as well and goes through the jungle gym, spreading the infected blood to likewise alter the other children. When a teacher comes to see how they are doing, he is jumped on by the now zombified children, who begin eating him. An additional teacher tries to assist, but she's overwhelmed and eaten also. Wade is ranting about Clint's while playing ball nearby. Bond with Lucy so he sees nothing. From his van, Rick sees the slaughter and isn't not sure if it's real or a dream brought on by the mushrooms. He continues to use his radio to notify Sims, who promptly emerges and has a go at chastening the kids for getting savage. Anyway, he is simply eaten by children who jump on him. Patriot finally changes inside and rushes to the office of the principal. The adults, seeing what's going on at the teacher's lounge, begin panicking. Even pressing her emergency button is done by a teacher. At that point, Swim at long last pivots and attempts to communicate with the infected children after noticing them. Clearly, the children don't treat him in a serious way, so Swim begins running and thumps down any kid that attempts to stop him as if it were a game of football. He locks the door after he returns to the building and leaves all the kids outside. The teachers attempt to call 911 using the phone, but Patriot has discovered all links in the importance office and annihilated the telephone lines. Wade moves into the lounge with the others, as well as witnessing the children's window-pounding hunger for more human flesh. That instant, Rick swallows the remaining mushrooms out of fear of being arrested when the sheriff arrives. However, the children begin biting through the fence as the sheriff gets closer. The terrified child emerges from hiding in the back seat, as the sheriff returns to his vehicle and drives away, and attack him, resulting in his demise. Wade decides that they need to do something back in the lounge. However, Patriot enters the room as soon as he opens the door. He is pushed away by Wade, and Patriot tackles Clint. So a teacher uses the opportunity to spray him with pepper spray. The Patriot only moves to attack a different teacher, resulting in a sudden push that locks them in the closet. The other adults take advantage of the opportunity to flee. A teacher tries to get out through an indirect access, yet the children are holding up there as well and kill him. The group dashes over to the library, where they track down Calvin. They panic at first, but soon realize that he isn't infected because he's been concealed in the library perusing throughout the morning. Patriot opens the doors for the interim, the remaining zombies to enter. The group hides in the upper floors after Wade leads them there, closing the door before Shelley can reach them in the music classroom. She keeps her smile on against the glass, and Calvin asserts that every child has cooties. Well-being instruction educator Doug tries to get a closer look at Shelley's blisters through because he thinks he might be onto something. The glass, however, she takes off. Then Swim recommends that they ought to run outside to come to their cars and use the instruments to defend themselves. Clint disagrees and believes that they ought to visit the head's office to get their telephones and call for help. While the two men contend like kids, the Patriot breaks each cell phone individually. Lucy eventually gets sick of fighting. What's more, proposes to hold on until the Guardians come to get their children, which everybody consents to. Rick stays safe outside in his van while the massacre gets worse by the minute. He pivots on the radio to mask the sounds of death, even imagining a giraffe standing next to him. Unfortunately, an emergency broadcast stops the music. It turns out that kids all over the city are changing, furthermore going after their folks. While they stand by, Lucy sees Clint's scratch from Shelley. Expecting that, Wade immediately locks Clint up in a room adjacent because he may be infected. Doug is frantic for replies, so he follows Clint and makes an exceptionally intensive assessment that leaves his hands covered in the body's fluids. Then Doug educates the rest regarding the gathering that Clint has side effects. Yet all the same, it's something almost identical to this season's virus and not what the children have. The kids keep themselves occupied for hours with their victims' body parts. The teachers let go when it's finally 3 in the afternoon. Together, Clint and I ascend to the roof to await the parents. Anyway, when a mother at last shows up, she can't hear Calvin or the teachers because she is on a call and wearing earphones. Yelling for assistance soon after, her child gets in the car and eats the baby in the backseat while the mother simply keeps talking. She doesn't respond until the youngster goes to eat her also. Everyone panics when Tamara grabs a teacher's leg at that moment, but it turns out she rejoins the group without being infected. Different children at last hear them and begin climbing the wall. So the gathering gets back inside and rushes to conceal in a phase room. Swim pushes the way to keep the children out, but Dink manages to sneak in and sees Doug. So Wade beats him with a fire extinguisher. Until the end, Lucy attempts to keep the two sound children occupied from the savagery, and Doug takes a closer look at the body reveals black blood. He starts by dragging Dink into the bathroom, taking apart him while Tamara finds she was damaged. So Lucy sends her to wash the injury. She then approaches Wade to inquire about his enmity. Wade had intended to propose to Lucy, but she never smiled like that for Wade. So when he saw her with Clint, he started to doubt her. He calls her names and asks to be alone. Doug shares after finishing his dissection a few minutes later. His conclusions while demonstrating the child's intellect. The majority of cells are dead and decaying, so the kids can do essential things like leap and eat, however nothing else, meaning they aren't actually human today. He is absolutely certain that this is brought on by a virus, and when Lucy explains that Clint and Doug inquires about Tamara's monthlies and whether she wears a bra, but she denies getting infected, Tamara affirms, which affirms Doug's hypothesis. The infection just influences the individuals who haven't gone through pubescence. Patriot abruptly turns off all of the lights and sets off an alarm. The panicked teachers they observe Calvin's unconsciousness. It turns out he has diabetes and necessities to eat something as soon as you can. At that point, they hear commotions through the walls and stress that the youngsters may be approaching. Lucy admits that she is unable to open the door in a moment of fear. Marriage Wade, the janitor, is the only one present when the door opens. Sadly, the children before long break in as the group then resumes their run, and the janitor directs them to hide in the boiler room. He has no food, yet he has a radio, and they discover that the city is emptying, indicating that no one will assist them. As everybody loses trust, Clint concocts an arrangement. They could use the ducks to get to the teacher's office and get some food for Calvin and Wade's truck. Clint is the only adult who is large enough to enter the ducks, and before he leaves, Tamara gives him a shot of Cootie. He moves around with the janitor's walkie-talkie, and he keeps receiving messages from Swim, offending him. This puerile conduct causes the normally decent Lucy to lash out, yelling angrily at everyone and declaring that she wants to accomplish something before she dies. Then she also enters the ducks to assist Clint, claiming that she despises all teachers. The duo makes their way through the pipes. They see a youngster in a hallway, so they freeze to keep away from identification. The child keeps hearing something more closely, but it's too dark to see anything, so the child walks away, back to playing. In the long run, they come to the parlor and Clint takes a stab at utilizing the candy machine. However, it won't take his dollar. Lucy enters the ducks once more after discovering Wade's keys. Immediately arrive at the Vitals office. She takes a stab at getting a decent telephone, however they're completely broken. So she goes back to the ducks without realizing Patriot had seen her. The child from the At That Time hall enters the parlor and Clint takes cover behind the candy machine. Nonetheless, the machine abruptly chooses to work and makes commotion, making the kid begin shouting. Nationalist hears this and begins his journey to the lounge. Fortunately, Clint is able to finally push his before jumping back into the ducks, put $1 in and get a snack from the machine. Clint and Lucy crawl as quickly as possible, but soon Patriot and additional children begin to follow them. So Clint tosses the nibble into the bubbling room prior to following another way. The team reaches a different room and moves some furniture right away to block the ducks so the kids can't get in there, unable to follow them. Then, at that point, they glance around and track down the body of one more educator behind her desk. They issue a warning when they suddenly hear the kids leaving and realize they are heading to the lounge. Through the use of a walkie-talkie, immediately, the teachers dump numerous items into the ducts to construct a barrier, and then they secure the lid to keep it shut. One of the instructors still frenzies, therefore Doug must slap him. Back to Clint, he comforts Lucy when she at long last has a breakdown. He then confesses, saying that he went back to Illinois to see her and knew she worked. He only pretended to be surprised to see her at that school. He knew he had been teaching first grade. York spent 2 years depressed because he couldn't start a writing career because he was a teacher. Doesn't give them much available energy. They suddenly kiss after laughing at the absurdity of the situation. But when they think of Wade, they end it. Then Clint gets an idea and starts looking for the space for the medication they use to keep kids quiet. Meanwhile, Wade uses the walkie-talkie to call Lucy and accepts responsibility for his actions and admits that he was envious because he felt inferior to a fancy author from New York. Clint takes over the walkie-talkie out of guilt and admits that he is a loser, granting his approval to Lucy and Wade's relationship. Then the two gatherings settle on an arrangement, and Rick's van radio picks up their walkie-talkie signals. Lucy and Clint open the entryway enough to toss the medication at the children, who promptly take it. Meanwhile, Wade provides engaging discourse and the gathering utilizes any article they can find around to assemble some unpleasant weapons and assurance. After the kids have gone to sleep, both groups get together in a hallway. Some awake children attempt to navigate the pitch black with a few flashlights as they get them, but they kill them by hitting them with baseballs. After a number of flawless, Wade runs out of balls during shot attacks, so the janitor stays behind to fight with his incredible skills in martial arts as the group runs outside. Since there are a lot of creepy kids in the front yard, the bunch begins hitting them with an assortment of game stuff and instruments to advance towards Swim's vehicle. The battle is furious, yet their collaboration is more grounded, and after a couple of near fiascos, they reach the vehicle. Wade, whose fate is unfortunate, throws his keys at Clint and informs him to safeguard Lucy. Then he keeps on battling the children so the others can get away. Really, Lucy doesn't want to walk away from him, but Clint nudges her into the car. They don't notice as they drive away that Patriot has scaled the truck's roof. When Clint discovers that they are rapidly running out of gas, Clint is forced to apply the brakes as a result of the Patriot's attempt to kill him through the window. Put the child in the car. Clint doesn't hesitate to drive toward Patriot because he wants his vengeance. What's more, pound him against a tree. The group reaches Danville eventually, and the truck finally runs out of gas. The town is unfilled and there are a lot of bodies in the city. At the point when the gathering checks, they discover through the shop windows that the virus has already spread throughout the nation and has been followed to a chicken plant in Illinois. Doug claims to be capable of developing a vaccine. If he is able to obtain a nugget, then behind them a group of zombie children appear. Consequently, the group escapes into the nearest structure, which turns out to be a playground for children. In the wake of locking the entryways, they notice an unwanted party and Doug will rescue a chunk. There are additionally the collections of the representatives on the floor. As they enter a different room, a light suddenly hits on uncover an entire swarm of beast kids, sitting tight for them inside the climbing game. The group is about to give up hope when a few kids die, shocking them, were shot and killed by Wade and the janitor who escaped. Swim advises everybody to run outside, where Rick's van is waiting. On out, the gathering blocks the game with a monster ball to snare the children. Wade then throws a match to start a fire and sprays gasoline all over the place, passing on every one of the zombies to torch while he gets away from in the van with his colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.